Action films are, without a doubt, one of the more popular movie genres in the world today. Blockbuster films like The Avengers, Mission Impossible, and the Fast and Furious series have made record numbers at the box office. The genre came about in the 70s and has been popular ever since. The stunts, chases, and fights keep audiences gripping their seats as actors dance around their ever-dangerous situations. The thrill of an action film is wondering if and how the characters make it out of these scenarios in one piece. The payoff of seeing them overcome stems from many factors: the audience's attachment to the characters, how high the stakes are, and even though we know we're watching a film, how real the danger feels. The last point, the realness of the action, is especially critical to action films. We're not here to make the insane claim that all an action film needs is action, but when the film stumbles on the pulling point of its genre, it can leave audiences feeling a little cross. Before we even begin discussion on improvements, it should be said that most of the films we're critiquing are doing action quite well. This issue is not the most dire and is aimed at improving scenes that make up a very small portion of the film's entirety, or even further, fairly specific sequences. There's a good place to look if you want to learn about selling action, and it's animation. These artists spend their lives selling all kinds of movement in all types of media. What makes the animator's job difficult is that they have more often than not have to mimic and create human movement. This task is daunting because we as human beings are surprisingly insightful when it comes to recognizing other humans. This is why the idea of drawing a face is difficult. It's not like drawing a tree or a car or things that people tend to remember in symbols. It's the face and movements that we see every time we step outside the door. To help with this, animators often refer to what is called the 12 principles of animation. These rules serve as a guideline to help artists sell cartoons, but I believe some of these points have applications with shooting and editing live-action films as well. That being said, there are countless ways making an animated film and a live-action film differ. So, for the sake of simplicity, we're going to summarize these general points into two: anticipation and staging. In order for an audience to understand a scene, they must see it. And this doesn't just mean the action itself, but the actions that prepare it as well. Anticipation communicates what's going to happen. In animation, this means two things: making sure the focal point of the scene is clear, and showing a character preparing for an action so that the audience understands what's going to happen next. This means that before a character does something big, they'll likely do something small beforehand. It's critical that this not only happens, but it's shown. Let's look at the scene of The Matrix again. What we've done is taken out all the wind-ups and just cut to where the hits land. Ironically, cutting to show nothing outside the impact neuters said impact. This is how the film's actual scene went, and we start to understand why it got the praise that it did. If you're looking at this previous sequence and thinking, deja vu? It's because you might be used to seeing action scenes filmed like this already, bringing us to our next point: staging. Referring to the 12 principles of animation, staging is what's described as making it clear to the audience what's going on and where their focus should be. This is relevant when speaking on action scenes because of the style of editing that's popular in today's world. Shaky cam and rapid editing give a sense of chaoticness, similar to that of a real fight. This type of editing is favored by many creators because it makes their job easier. Special effects are easier to mesh, choreography can be learned cut to cut, and shooting is based more on capturing scenes from a series of angles and hoping one turns out okay. This makes the actual action hard to follow, and by the end of the scene, all audiences can recall is that someone was beat up. Even with animation focusing on the chaotic, audiences are expected to be able to follow what's going on throughout it. Let's look at two television shows taking place in the same universe: Marvel's Avengers and Iron Fist. The former was already popular in its release, but blew up again when this sequence found its way to YouTube. Even with the dim lighting and shadowy characters, we can still understand the location of the actors and what's going on. Compare this to the lesser-loved scene from Iron Fist. This sequence is reminiscent of the Matrix scene we butchered earlier. Every punch is given its own shot, and what this communicates to the audience is that there's a fight going on. We can't really get the specifics, we just know there's a fight. I don't think these solutions are a fix-all for cinema, because I don't believe action movies are really broken. As interest grows and people continue to support this thriving genre, I'm hopeful filmmakers will become better and better at their respective craft. This essay is just a critique on the current state of things and will hopefully provide a small amount of insight on where to look next for inspiration.